It was 1 year ago today that Mother Nature unleashed an EF2 tornado on the residents of Easter and Burke County. During the next several minutes, you will see stories and see pictures of community support, bravery, and how volunteers responded to the aid of the many victims.
We're here at George Hildebrand Fire Department with Captain Patton here. And Captain Patton, we're going over the anniversary of the tornado that hit just a year ago. Can you kind of tell us what you experienced and what you saw as the tornado approached the area here?
Well, we were here at the fire department and just kind of looking out the door. And it started raining pretty hard, and then it kind of slacked up, but you could hear the thunder and back toward the church from the fire department. The area was real dark, and then you could kind of hear the thunder, and it just sounded muffled, just sounded really strange or weird.
Right.
And then while I was standing there, I noticed the flag was flying, blowing toward the east, and then when I looked back up, it was going the opposite way. And then you could start feeling the air coming out of the building.
You were telling us earlier, it really wasn't that train sound that a lot of people say is associated with the tornado.
Just kind of a swirl in the air, you know,
right.
And you hear just whistling sound. And then we watched it, well, they couldn't really see it, but we could hear it, and just kind of listened to it and was watching as it went down. And then when it got out of our view, is when we seen a blue flash, and we figured that was a transformer or something.
You guys got called out to several of the scenes. Can you kind of maybe explain what this fire station here, maybe some of the calls that you guys had to encounter?
Well, I drove our engine 1 out. Our first dispatch was for a tree down on Roney Road, and so we went out and started to go that way, and then we started getting dispatched for structure collapses. So we got turned around because heard on the radio you can't travel like down Old Laurel Road that way. You couldn't go that way, so we turned around, went down George Hildebrand and back by the fire department, and got down the road a little ways. Said the road's completely blocked down there, and then still trying to get to the first structure collapse. And then so we turned back around and then went the original way we were going, and finally got over to Claude Britton Road and ended up cutting a tree out of the roadway. And then we made it to Bradshaw Road, where there was 2 houses and it was collapsed. And kind of find out there was a LP gas tank that overturned and the valve was busted off. So we ended up, or me personally, staying with the truck and staying there with it.
Right. So a lot of stories coming out of the George Hildebrand area. We're going to thank Captain Patton for allowing us to interview him here at the George Hildebrand Fire Department. We're going to be traveling throughout the area interviewing some more citizens who have been affected by this tornado. But we again want to thank Mr. Patton for allowing us to come in and interview with him. And thank you for the story, Captain Patton.
I'm Chris White. We're standing here on Old Number 10 talking to victims from the tornado that occurred last year, talking with Mark and Brandon Abernathy here. Guys, you guys have been, we've kind of talked before here, what you saw that night. What did you hear? What did you see? Were you home during the time?
We were both home. He works third shift, so he was sleeping. We had just come home from supper. You watch TV programs and they're interfered by weather alerts, and it irritates you at times, but I'm a firm believer in watching all the weather alerts at this time. It had spent about 20 minutes talking about tornadoes, and it was coming up from Cleveland for George Hildebrand, and they had talked about the Akron area being in the direct path, so you kind of pay a little bit more attention when it's within 2 or 3 miles of your house. We started watching about 10 to 6 or so, and about 15 after 6 or 10 after 6 it started saying it lasted till 6:13. Well, at 6:13 they extended it to 6:45. The power flickered, came back on, flickered again, went back off, didn't come back on. You're sitting here, it gets dead quiet.
And it's not real dark outside, it turns more of a grayish color. There's not really anything you can say to describe it.
You hear stuff falling around you, and you hope it's not your roof caving in. It was probably a good minute and a half of terror. I mean, you don't know what's about to happen, and it's very scary. The animals are not quite to their own. They're scared to death.
That minute and a half, it seemed more like an hour, 3 or 4, because the moment you go to stand up to go make sure everything's okay, you're like, okay, can I go outside now? Can I go make sure my house is still here?
Right.
So you all received the warning through the television.
Oh yeah.
And so through the breaking in, and
well, I actually got mine through y'all, through my phone.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
So you received it different ways there, and
Right.
so the warning dissemination kind of worked this time with
Right.
it, and all that information getting out to you at the right time. Was anybody hurt?
No, that's the miracle in it, is from George Hildebrand to South Fork, which took a major devastation, which looks like a war zone, to here to Wilson Road to Lake Hickory. The miracle is nobody got killed.
Standing here 1 year later, is it 1 year ago today, the tornado struck. How does this change the community? How has this bonded, put the community together?
it's amazing. It's just, that's the only word I can think of. Just how much that we come together over that short amount of time, just working through all this stuff.
You go to the mailbox, which we have a community mailbox here at the end of the road. Instead of waving at people, you'll stop and say hello and ask them how they're doing and check on their family life, and you take a few minutes to get to know your neighbors more instead of just waving at them and see them in a pass and go situation. Back in August, we one of the houses here within seeing distance, which took major devastation, we all came together and had a community cookout, which a year ago or 2 years ago we'd have never thought about it, because we all had our own lives. We all did our own thing. We knew who each other were, but we never took the time to get to know each other like we could. And I've lived here for 23 years now. And
is this the first tornado that you've had in 23 years that's come through this area?
Yes, and like we talked earlier, I hope it's like lightning and a tornado doesn't strike twice in the same area.
Amen.
So it's very humbling. It's very overwhelming. And like I say, the miracle in it is no one got killed. After going through, we spent 4 days here digging out before we even knew what was going on 2 or 3 miles down the road.
You said those organizations, Samaritan's Purse, the Baptist Men, those organizations that came in and really helped the community in getting some sense of normalcy back.
And the Red Cross.
And
also.
the Red Cross,
the
Red Cross. Also. They came in, and you said they got out here one morning maybe, and
the Baptist Men, the North Carolina Baptist Men's disaster relief team showed up, and what they did for this community, what they do for Hurricane Katrina victims on the coast here in North Carolina, South Carolina, whatever the case may be, they're ready to go at a moment's notice. They were going to send one of their 2 or 3 of their members overseas to work, but they were needed more here in the local community because they said it was in their backyard. And you know, they had never seen anything like this in their backyard. It's different when it happens to somebody else. And you sit here and you hear about these Midwestern tornadoes when they say, "I never thought it would happen to me. I never thought it happened to me." That's the only thing you can say the next morning is, "I never thought it would happen to me."
I'm here at South Fork Baptist Church with Jimmy Curtis. Jimmy's been here since this time last year, just preparing food and making sure the volunteers are well kept. And Jimmy, first of all, let's talk about what you've seen this time last year.
Well, a year ago today, we were at a snack bar eating, and the pastor called, and we were already left and was headed this way, and told us not to come to church. We had no power, so we came on anyhow to see what was going on. And when we rounded the corner up here at the store, trees was down across the road, and the fire department, nobody hadn't got here yet. Mercy people hadn't got here, but there was trees down, houses blowed over, just stuff all over the ground, hanging in trees. It was chaos.
That's right, Jimmy. And you know, we've met several times, and Chris has too, with all the Burke Weather staff. This has been kind of the staging point of the recovery of the area that's been affected by the tornado. Kind of go through who's all has been here and what's been done, and how South Fork Baptist Church has been the main stage of the recovery efforts here in eastern Burke County.
Well, when the next morning after it happened, we came in, Samaritan's Purse was waiting in the parking lot. And they set the church up as the headquarters, I guess, the main spot, because it was in the center of the mess. And so they came in, and then Red Cross came in and set up here, the Baptist Men. And that weekend, after the Samaritan's Purse was here, the guy from Samaritan's Purse, I forget his name, Brent, said in 4-day period, we fed over 5,000 meals out of the church, and for all the volunteers and the people in the community and everything. And then Baptist Men came in, and they're still here with us, and they're working on the last house now. They've totally built 3 houses, and they're working on the 4th one, and they've got probably 2 weeks left, and they'll have it done.
That's awesome to hear. This time a year ago, you know, the tornado just with all the destruction, and know that 2 weeks from now the last family will be placed back in the last house that's built. It's actually been a whole year recovery for this area, and I'm sure you've heard numerous stories and volunteers. Any kind of story that sticks out in your mind of maybe someone telling you something that they've experienced while they've been out helping the people of Eastern Burke County?
Not just one in particular. No, there's been a lot of different stories and stuff that's going on in the community when the volunteers was out and helping people, and there's not just one that sticks out in my head, but there's a bunch of them. There's been a lot of people. We've got 3 families that's joined the church since the tornado hit, and that was tornado victims. And so it's a blessing. The Lord's working and bringing people in.
He is. The Lord works in mighty ways, and we know that even through devastation like this, that there's always some good out of it. The Lord can always wrap His hands around it and provide something good out of it. So it's good to hear that many people have came here to South Fork Baptist Church and have rededicated their lives and joined the church here. And we just want to thank Jimmy and Pastor Scott Thomas for all they've done here at South Fork. And you know, all of us here at Burkweather, we just want to thank you for the support you've had for this community, and to make sure that all the families affected by this have had some kind of love and comfort, and most of all been shared of Jesus' love for them. So we want to thank you guys for that, and we want to thank you for all the support that you've extended to all the citizens here in the county.
Oh, thank you.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Chris White. We're back here in the Burke Weather Center, and we're going to talk just a little bit about how we perceived the day, January 11th, 2012, and how it affected us, along with the folks that you've heard the stories from already down in Eastern Burke County. Back last year, we were on the air, and the tornado started to hit, and we started hearing the different calls come in for structure damage, structures collapsed. And honestly, at that point in time, you feel so small because there's absolutely nothing you can do except for to continue to spread the word. Now, Scotty, I'll start with you. You were out in the thing. You were out driving and actually down Old 18 for a time.
That's right, Chris. I was going to an engagement that I'd already committed to, and as I was driving on Interstate 40, got a text message from the National Weather Service of a tornado warning for Burke County. Tried to get a hold of Chris and could not do that, so I got a hold of meteorologist Tim Sawyer. Tim and I were talking back and forth as I was heading down Old 18. I could actually see the dark clouds and what it seemed to be like a circulation in the clouds, but at that point, you know, we still wasn't quite sure. I wasn't quite sure to know what was going on, and I told Tim that I would get back in touch with him as soon as I got to the place I was going to. And I forgot about that. That's a funny story. I know you guys were a little worried about me. Had the Highway Patrol and Sheriff's Office and many organizations looking at me. But I was down, I guess, the closest to the storm, and I could tell there was some rotation in the clouds. And I do remember as I was driving down the road, right before I got that text message, just a big streak of lightning come across the sky, and just something about that feeling. You could just kind of tell something was getting ready to take place, and you know, we were all looking. It was in the mid-40s that day, and it was hard to imagine that a tornado could form. But as that warm front rode up through our area, it was just the perfect situation for that.
Was, Scotty, and much like we've seen today, while we were out talking with the people, just time and time again, they're like, the weather today is just like it was last year at this time, and it was cold. We were in this deep wedge. It really started to break down around 5 o'clock. The warm front started riding north, and this storm started in Spartanburg, Jason, and started moving northeast. And you live in that area, and here you are sitting watching this take place, and what are your feelings?
I was in Morganton when this storm moved up through southern and eastern Burke County, and I watched on radar as the rotation moved. It looked like it moved directly over my house. So as I was on Burke Weather on the Facebook page, you know, issuing warnings and everything, I wasn't sure if I had a house left. I wasn't sure if I had anything left at home. I happened to be at my parents' house at the time, which was pretty lucky for me because I probably would have been on the road at that time. So once the storm moved out of the area, once the threat had resolved, the first place I went to check for damage was my own house. And when I got down there and found that everything was intact, and you know, my cat was perfectly fine, my hamster was perfectly fine, I changed into some work clothes and headed out so that we could start a damage survey.
Yeah, I remember talking to you. You said, I'm going home because I don't know if I have a house yet. And I said, okay. And we were organizing all the members of Burke Weather together at this point, and trying to coordinate that with the different news agencies that were contacting us, and then also trying to find Scotty. But I remember talking to Jason, and Heath, Tim Sawyer, and myself, Heath Browning, Tim Sawyer, and myself, we left my house, headed to Jason's because we hadn't heard back from him yet. So we got down. We ended up meeting down at the store there. Do you know which one?
It was at George Hildebrand and New 18, which actually ended up being about 400 yards from where the tornado had crossed 18, and we didn't know it until the next morning.
That's right. There was we could see a lot of leaf litter in the road when we went down George Hildebrand School Road. We went out there, and I think the most vivid image that stands out in my mind is when we turned down Old Laurel Road, and we got there, and this house is missing half of its roof. Out comes this young man, Mr. Owen. Is it Owen?
Corey Owens.
Corey Owens, and he came out, and he's shaking our hands, and he's saying, you know, thank you for the text message that I received from you guys, because I live with my 2 elder grandparents, and I had to get them up and into the basement. He said just as he got into the basement, the roof went off the house and the chimney fell in right where they were sitting. So that's one of my biggest images that stick with me. And then, of course, we were all out down there together. We had chains and stuff ready to pull our way through, and we worked our way from George Hildebrand back up to Eichard, and it was complete devastation in the areas that were hit. And Scotty, I don't know what your first memories of it were, but that was the one that stood out in my mind.
I guess looking, the first memory I have is looking at a well-built brick home, 2-story brick home, and the top level of the house just demolished. I think that's when I finally came to the realization of, you know, we have actually been hit by a major tornado. And that just kind of hit home. You know, you're looking at this house, and you look up, and there's complete clear skies, stars shining, but then again, the devastation of a tornado rolling through this neighborhood, and just really destroying houses and property and affecting people's lives. I think we put in there, and we talked to the people there. They were not at home at the time. They were coming back from Hickory, I believe, and I don't know how to describe this scene, but we see this one house completely gone, and all that's left is a hallway. And in fact, the picture just was right there. And just to know that was the only thing that was left standing of this house really confirms that's where you need to be when a tornado. If you don't have a basement or any lower part of your house you can go to the hallway, interior part of the house, where there's no windows and the structure's built sound. And that was the only thing left of that house. And, you know, it's hard to believe that well-constructed homes like that totally just eliminated after that tornado rolled through.
That's right. And people's lives in that 30-minute time range, Jason, especially down around your area, changed forever. Today we were talking to several people, Scotty and I were, and you go from one place to another, and outside of that area, it's like everybody thinks things are back to normal. Well, in his words, there is no normal. You can never recover to normal after living through something like that. And Jason, you may have a story or something that really sticks out in your mind about January 11, 2012.
Just the odd things that you get with tornadoes, with the very localized winds, and I'm sure that you guys noticed these things too, but one of the things that kind of made me chuckle and shake my head was that the house that was all that was really left standing was the hallway. The kitchen was completely gone. The only thing left was the floor and one countertop against that hallway wall. And I found it funny that the entire kitchen was gone. 3 walls and the roof were all gone, and right on the countertop there stood a stand mixer.
Yeah,
just completely intact. Just it hadn't been moved, and I thought that was funny. What did you notice? That
today, and I just learned this today, out off old NC10, a woman was making a chicken pie for her family, and she hardly ever cooked. And today just happened to be the day that she was making this chicken pie, and the tornado hit, and the roof went off of their house, and they said they could look out through their ceiling and see stars. And it said there was just something that stuck out with his stomach about that, just like a dagger in his stomach. But the chicken pie, even though the roof's gone on the house, the chicken pie left sitting on the stove untouched.
Yeah, and speaking with a family friend that lived in that area, talking about looking as they're going down the steps to their basement, as they're going down, they see the roof just fly off their house. That gives me cold chills, because I couldn't imagine being in that situation. Or when we were first down there the day after, we seen a church steeple out in the middle of this field that the nearest church was, I would say, 1/4 to half a mile away. All kinds of just things that have moved from one area to another. I remember the first place we visited, this man was trying to keep the squirrels off his pecan tree, and he had completed that, and then he said a tornado in January takes out his pecan tree. Yeah. He would have never thought that. So just all kinds of stories and just memories that I don't think that'll ever leave my mind. I'm not sure about you guys, but it's just, I can remember it just like it happened yesterday.
I'm sitting, Steve and I were working in tandem at that point when the warning came out, and Steve saw this. Meteorologist Steve Wasco, he said, and he mentioned it on to the National Weather Service, and he said that thing's rotating as it come across the line into Rutherford County. And all of a sudden, through ham radio, one of the ham radio guys had said that there was damage in Ellenboro and people were trapped in their houses. And I kind of looked in the mirror. I was by myself. Steve was working out of his residence at the time, and I'm like, we're getting ready to experience something that we haven't experienced in a very long time here in Burke. And it wasn't 10 minutes later when we were getting these warnings out. The warning came out from the National Weather Service. Steve had put it out about 5 minutes before the National Weather Service warning. You know, you need to be prepared for this. And the first call came over my fire radio of a structure collapse and people entrapped. Now I'm sitting here at this desk in my house issuing these warnings, and I've got to tell you, I've never felt more helpless in any situation than that one, because it was just from there, it was just call after call after call, and they ended up dispatching the entire county down to eastern Burke County. I'm talking Jonas Ridge Fire Department on down. They came down to eastern Burke County, and those guys worked miraculously. It was like you had a plan put together and it worked flawlessly, and those guys just did a great job.
Speaking of that, Chris, you know, we were there this tornado touched down on a Tuesday. We're there from Wednesday to the following Monday. And all of us had the experience to work with Samaritan's Purse and other various organizations that...
Which was absolutely amazing.
It was. And to see that first morning at South Fork Baptist Church, we were talking with the guy today. 80 people is what they're expecting, and 190 showed up. The community involvement, I think over 1,500 people went through South Fork Baptist Church to help volunteer their time to help the rebuilding process and the cleaning process of what the tornado affected. Just to see the sense of community. I know we all were down there working as a team. All our families came and participated in that cleanup as well. Just to see us all come together and work together and just have people just come up and shake your hand. Thanks for coming out here and helping us. You know, we don't know what to do, but thank you for spending your time, your weekend, your days, hours to come help us was an amazing thing to see.
Yeah, you saw earlier the story from Mr. Abernathy. They experienced the help of the North Carolina Baptist men. He said they didn't have a clue what to do. They were out helping the neighbors, and they still had a home that was livable. So they were out helping their neighbors who had nothing left to pick up the pieces and start putting them together again. These are neighbors that probably hadn't interacted much before this. And now, today, just everywhere we went, the communities have come together. They're throwing parties. And in November, they threw a party out there as a community. And that's what it's all about. You know, you've got to take the good out of any bad situation that happens. It was horrible that it happened. It was terrible. It was tragedy. Nobody lost their lives. There was only 8 injured. What a blessing.
Really?
And an EF2 tornado, 135 mile per hour winds, and nobody loses their life. And you're talking in January in western North Carolina where you don't get these. And now we get to see the beauty of God's work coming together and these communities becoming communities again instead of just little individual houses. This is where I live, you know, and we're going to bond together, and they have. And that is amazing to see. The work continues, folks. Today we visited South Fork Baptist Church, and they are about 2 weeks from finishing their last house. That is the North Carolina Baptist men. They have been working tirelessly 365 days, literally, with no breaks, feeding 3 meals a day out of that church, getting clothing. They were the staging area for the Samaritan's Purse, for the Baptist men, for all the volunteer organizations that came in. These people have worked so long, so hard, and so selflessly for the betterment of their community and their followers, and it continues today. Today, after talking to them, we realized that donations and the beauty of everything has wore off. The excitement has dwindled, and there's not a lot coming in anymore. But they are still there. The volunteers continue to work 7 days a week to get these families back in their house, and to know that there's only one family that is left out without a house right now, and they are only 2 weeks from having this house completed, is a beautiful thing. Your donations are still needed. The food costs money. The power bill at the church costs money. Your donations are still needed at South Fork Baptist Church. They were telling us that their power bill was $600 last month. You know, and this is some time where the rest of us in the communities in Burke County can reach out, come together, and say, hey, let's help them over this last and final hump and get this, get the red into the black, the money into the black, so that no one is by themselves having to fund these projects. Now, several churches have given, and I challenge others to come forward and give as well. And Scotty, you saw, I mean, the people out there today, how humbled, how blessed, and how wonderful things have come together for them. And to know that we are just about there. The last family, they're on the home stretch. It's a beautiful thing.
That's right. We were speaking with representatives of South Fork Baptist Church, and to hear how things have progressed there, to see how God has worked in that area. You know, they're not bitter, they're not sad. They've embraced this. Good comes from this, and if we can help our friends and possibly family, if you have family down in that area, let's go ahead and roll up our sleeves one more time. Let's pitch in. Let's get these people over this last hump, as Chris was talking about. You can make a difference, and we are looking forward to finally seeing the final nail driven into the house, to see that house finally constructed, that we can celebrate that, yes, something bad happened this time last year, but to see the good that's happened this year, and to know that we all had a hand in helping that situation. It leaves me has me having a good feeling, and gives me goosebumps, and I know for you guys it does the same.
Yeah, it's a great feeling to know that you gave back to your community, even if it's just $1. $1 goes toward that $600 of the power bill that they had to pay out of their church budget, which is very small anyway. Every dollar counts. All you have to do is go to South Fork Baptist Church. They're there, they're cooking 3 meals a day for these folks. So you go there, they're up in the basement. How do you get there? Go to I-40 and exit 118. You'll get off, and it's old number 10 is the road. You'll turn, if you're coming from west, you'll turn right after exiting the interstate, go out to Johnson Bridge Road. I think it's about a half mile. Turn left down Johnson Bridge Road, and then about another quarter mile, South Fork Baptist Church will be on your right. Now, they don't need clothing and all this stuff. That has all been taken care of by you and by followers of Burke Weather, and by the communities in Burke County, by the church communities. What they need now is monetary donations, not to go in their pockets. It doesn't go in anybody's pockets. This is going to help them pay that last power bill that's going to be coming in to keep those lights on for those volunteers, and now switching back and going back, and that church reaches their sense of normalcy where their people come and go. We want to leave that just as it was before. So if you can give, donate today. Go by South Fork Baptist Church and donate. Donate to them and help them to get over this last hump. And let's have a celebration in this county. For a year ago, something bad happened, but this year we celebrate. For Burke Weather, I am Chief Meteorologist Chris White, along with meteorologist Jason Alexander and Scotty Powell.